All right, how are y'all doing tonight? Good. I'm Mike Craig from Public Safety Dogs Incorporated. This is Linda Dunn. She's a co-founder of Public Safety Dogs Incorporated. And this is Cindy Becker. Cindy has been working with us for a couple of years now, and she has the dog that you'll be seeing tonight. His name is Shadow. He's a Belgian Malinois. Lynn and I started this organization in 2003. Up until then, we were doing searches all over North Carolina and South Carolina, and even got called into Georgia one time looking for missing persons. And I bought some land, and we're going to build a new kennel. It was not long after 9/11. We were getting a lot of calls about, providing bomb dogs to different cities. And I was looking at, for the first time in my life, actually making a lot of money. And, sometimes you lose focus when you start thinking about money or something that you want, and things just kind of snowball on you. Well, we were out working on the kennel one day, and I had bought a dump truck with a bad brake on it, and after a short screaming session, I got run over by it and ended up almost losing my legs. So for a year, just about a year, I was completely unable to do anything. I couldn't get up. I was wheelchair bound, went from a wheelchair to a walker, put holes in a couple of walls falling down. And the whole time I spent all the time on the couch watching television. And the more I saw about these children who were being kidnapped and murdered, and kids getting lost in the woods and freezing to death because they couldn't find them. And I watched the way they were doing it is they were using patrol dogs from police departments to try to find them, which I knew was not the right kind of dog, but that's all they had. So we went to a search in Virginia where a 9-year-old's parents were killed and she was taken.
A community that was once neatly tucked into a century of protective hills.
Our whole community has been devastated by what's took place and what's happened.
Will never be the same.
This area's never experienced anything like this, so we didn't know what to do.
Ray Reynolds has spent his life capturing moments in time. But it's that moment deep into the night of August 15th, 2002 that haunts him.
I was a neighbor. I lived across the road, saw the little girl and her dad the night before it happened. And you don't ever forget that.
Just so sad that you got a child involved.
When you got the phone call, it set a different feeling inside of you.
Henry County Sheriff Lane Perry was one of the department's high-ranking officers on that night.
Something that happens to a child strikes deeper and harder.
The murder of the Short family, Michael, Mary, and their 9-year-old daughter Jennifer,
every day I walk into my office, I think about the Short case.
Is Curtis Spence's eternal puzzle.
This case is the most frustrating case that I've ever worked on.
The filing cabinets in his office
It's lead after lead
hold just a fraction of the evidence.
after lead.
I'd probably say in excess of 10,000 leads or more.
Yet still no solution.
We went up there and worked that case, and the sheriff came to us after we got finished that day, and he said he had never seen anything like that before, and he wanted to know how he could get one of these dogs. So we went home and thought about it, and at that time in North Carolina, there was in the country, only 2 really people who were doing this kind of thing. One was in Oregon, and the other one, Colorado, and the other one was in Georgia. And their dogs were about $10,000. So, of course, the sheriff's department didn't have that kind of money, so we talked to our friends and our family, and we gathered some money together, and we picked up a bloodhound from a person that we knew and went out and trained the dog and gave it to him. Trained the handler. He came and trained with us for free. And we decided, we could do a lot more good if we would train these dogs and give them to the police, because they'll use them right away rather than to wait till the 3rd day and then call us. So that's how we got started, is just a way to try to save, missing children and Alzheimer's patients, doing it on a bigger scale. And since then, we've had dogs in New York City. We've got dogs in the Hawaiian Islands. We've got had dogs spread all over the country.
Pittsburgh police, certainly they were heartbroken over Canine Loki, and they're grateful for all of the offers that they've received. But the most unique one came from Burlington, North Carolina, for a bloodhound that is already trained and ready to go to work. Worried either. No, you were. When canine Loki died unexpectedly, the sweet 10-week-old puppy hadn't even started training. Although his canine friends are still sad, the need for a canine that finds missing persons is forcing them to keep moving and bringing them to Burlington, North Carolina to meet another sweet bloodhound named Cappy.
When I saw it, that they first got this puppy, I was excited for them. And then that Saturday, I get the Google alert in and the puppy died. So Monday morning, I picked up the phone and I was like, well, you know what, I'm going to call. We got this dog.
Mike Craig helped found the nonprofit Public Safety Dogs Incorporated. Cappy is one of the dogs they rescued and trained. And after hearing about Loki, they offered to donate him to the Pittsburgh Police Department.
It's a godsend. I mean, they rescue dogs, they fully train them, and then they donate them to police departments. It's a nonprofit. They don't make any money from it.
That's what we do. Kind of what we have branched into in the last couple of years is we've had some local departments come out and we do free seminars, and they've come out and watched what we're doing, and we've worked some cases with them, and so now we're training some of their dogs. Medment PD, we've got both of their dogs doing the kind of trailing that we do, which means if you go outside in a group, the dog will only follow one person. So if everybody splits off in different directions, the dog is only going to follow the one scent that we give them. So if we have a piece of your clothing, or we actually have a machine, if you've been sitting in that chair and we don't have any clothing or anything from you, rather than wait for your parents to get here, which could be an hour or two, we have a machine that will actually vacuum your scent right off the chair, and it'll store it on a piece of gauze for the dog to use. So it kind of gets us out in the field a little bit faster sometimes. We have actually tracked somebody off of a rock at Hanging Rock State Park. They didn't have anything else. The kid didn't live around here, and all we had was the rock he had been climbing on all day. So we actually vacuumed the rock, and I got his scent off of it. We tracked him almost 7 miles that night, and he continued to walk because he was scared because people were behind him. So he ended up walking literally off the side of part of the mountain and slid down and bounced into the road in front of one of the ambulances that was coming up there to relieve one of the other ones. So we were able to get him back where he belonged.
My name is Jessica Arias, and I'm the Director of Animal Services at the City of Burlington. Sometimes we receive dogs at our center that have behavior issues, and this is one way that we've been working with Mike Craig of Public Safety Dogs, Inc., and he's been wonderful to help us address some of those concerns through training and problem solving with some of our behavior dogs. And as a result, many dogs that otherwise may not have been adoptable have able to overcome their issues and find great permanent homes. For Mike, what he provides for animal services and for the dogs themselves is just so invaluable. I mean, it's really life-saving work that he's doing. And being able to oftentimes find dogs in shelters that he can then retrain to do, the search and rescue work is really incredible. And we have so many wonderful dogs that come through the facility that can be retrained for other jobs, and to have Mike be able to identify those dogs and then take a shelter dog and retrain them into other work is really incredible.
Yeah, I'm Bill Bailey. I'm a police officer in the town of Dracut, actually retired canine officer. And when we were looking for a dog, we ended up finding Mike and Linda and checked into their organization, and we got a dog from them, and he was an awesome dog. My dog Mason, he was recovered from Hurricane Katrina. We ended up getting Mason from Mike and Linda. He was trained with the scent discriminating when we got him from Mike. And we used him for about 2 years. And then after I started training him into narcotics and narcotics identification, and so we ended up using them between the scent discriminating and the narcotics. We had them for 3 years. I've worked with Mike and Linda twice. I took on one of their dogs back in 2006, and then went down again to work with them to recertify Mason in a more difficult scent discrimination work. And after 2 years, it was a pleasure to work with them again. I had Mason for 3 years, and during that time, we did a lot of work together. As far as finding people, we ended up finding quite a few people. We did, of course, the criminal apprehension, where we found criminals, but I think my greatest memory of Mason was the day he recovered a 7-year-old girl alive and well after over 16 hours. It was a really proud moment for me that Mason was able to do that.
One of the reasons that we donate these dogs and equipment to the police departments is they don't have the budget to buy a dog that just does one thing. I mean, even if that one thing to us is the most important thing there is returning a child to their parents or finding somebody's lost grandparents, they just don't have the money to do it. They normally go to an outside resource, or they try to find a police department that has this kind of dog available, but most of the time they can't. Or 5 days later, after the person's been missing, the FBI can get called in. But we kind of like them to use them right away, because when you've got a missing person, especially a child, it's time sensitive.